Recently, a new rising star in the GOP has emerged by the name of Elise Stefanik. The reason why she has rose to prominence in these recent days is because she appears likely to replace Liz Cheney as the number 3 House Republican. And this is because Liz Cheney has really come out against Trump recently, and Elise Stefanik is actually pretty pro-Trump, but she's also very moderate. And this will come into play because I'm actually doing a 2024 election prediction between the two candidates, since Elise Stefanik's name has been brought up pretty recently. It doesn't appear likely that she'll be the GOP nominee, but it'll be fun to do it anyway. And Elise Stefanik will be a very good candidate since she's pretty pro-Trump and she has his support, yet she still has been able to gain Democratic voters. For example, her district was won by Donald Trump by 10%. It was 54-44 for the GOP former president in 2020. And Elise Stefanik won her district by about 17%, 58-41 in 2020 in her House race. So she definitely has appeal to a large different amount of voters. So, and without further ado, let's get started. In New York, Elise Stefanik's home state would be safe for Joe Biden, and Delaware, Joe Biden's state would be safe for him. And Elise Stefanik's safe states, I keep on saying home states instead of safe states, would include the South Carolina, I believe would be safe since she'd do well in the suburbs. Same thing with Kansas and most of Nebraska. Nebraska second, of course, we'll talk about later. The Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and Alaska. These will be all of Elise Stefanik's safe states. And for Joe Biden, the West Coast, of course, and the Eastern Seaboard, along with Maine's first, Illinois, and Colorado, along with Hawaii. And that rounds out the safe states for both parties. And going into likely states, I believe that Virginia would be likely for Joe Biden, since Elise Stefanik is actually pretty moderate. She'd get the rural voters out, but also she'd gain the suburban vote pretty significantly. Same thing in New Mexico. While she could actually retain the gains made by the GOP with Hispanics, she could also do better in the Santa Fe suburbs, and in the end, that could make Joe Biden win the state by only 10 or 11%. And that will round out Joe Biden's likely states. And for Elise Stefanik, Maine's second district will be likely, along with Iowa and Ohio and Texas as well, since she do well with the more affluent white voters than Donald Trump did. So there we have it. I think that Joe Biden will lose the state by about 5 to 6%. And now we'll get into some of the closer states. And I'll start off with the lean states for Joe Biden. Maine at large would be lean, and New Hampshire would be lean. Elise Stefanik could actually have a very solid shot at New Hampshire, since it is a pretty white state, and Elise Stefanik could definitely do well with the voters there. But since she is a pro-Trump candidate relatively, her moderate nature may definitely make her gain, and I think that New Hampshire would be around 2%. Compared to the 7% from 2020, that's a 5% gain, so that's no small achievement. But in the end, since Stefanik would have the Trump endorsement, she'd probably pick a pro-Trump running mate and run as a pro-Trump candidate and maybe a populist. That would pretty much hurt her with New Hampshire voters. So I think that would go pretty narrowly to Joe Biden. And the more lean Joe Biden states, Minnesota, I think Elise Stefanik would definitely improve with the Twin City suburbs, in which Joe Biden made gains in, but she'd roll those gains back. And in Nevada, also a lean state. And that will round out the lean states for Joe Biden. For Elise Stefanik, I believe that Nebraska second will be lean, since it is a very suburban, moderate district, and that would really cater to Elise Stefanik's positions and policies. North Carolina and Florida will both be lean. She definitely do well with the Trump voters that voted for Donald Trump there. And I think that she would make up she'd actually make some gains in North Carolina, from Donald Trump's about 1% victory to maybe about 2% by gaining in the suburbs. And that rounds out the lean states for both parties. For Joe Biden, I believe that Michigan will be his only tilt state. This is because he won it by a pretty large margin in 2020, and it's essentially now, I believe, a Democratic-leaning swing state. Elise Stefanik would have a better shot than Donald Trump, and I believe even Ron DeSantis at this state, since she do well with the suburbs, the white voters that voted for Donald Trump in 2016, but for Joe Biden in 2020. But in the end, there's still Detroit. Sorry, I pronounced that very badly. And I think Joe Biden would just do well enough with actually most demographics that he won in 2020 to narrowly hold on to the state by under 1% at least. So these definite gains, but not enough to win. And then we have Elise Stefanik, some of her tilt states. Wisconsin will be tilt along with Pennsylvania. Here are the reasons behind these calls. Wisconsin is definitely trending to the right. There's not much doubt about that so far. And here's why. The driftless regions in the southwest of the state, very blue collar, are definitely shifting towards the Republican Party. Joe Biden did not do very well there, and the suburbs are actually staying with the Republicans for now, especially the WOW counties outside of I'll actually just check. I'm going to say Madison or Milwaukee, but I'm not quite sure. So these counties outside of Milwaukee, so Waukesha, Washington, and Ozaukee counties, they were actually pretty solid Republican state counties, but they've been shifting to the left overall, at least in 2020. I think Elise Stefanik would do very well there, and therefore she would win the state. Pennsylvania should also do well in the Philadelphia suburbs, and with the blue-collar voters, now combined in a pretty Trump-like win in the state. And now we have the last two states that will decide the presidential election, Georgia and Arizona. So I'm going to call Arizona right now for Elise Stefanik, and here's why. She'd definitely win Maricopa County. Maybe not definitely, but there's a good chance she would win it because she'd do well in the Phoenix suburbs. Joe Biden would, of course, do well in Phoenix itself, but with the rural voters and the suburbs on her side, Elise Stefanik would have a very solid shot at victory. And in Georgia, the suburban population seems pretty inelastic here. They voted by large margins for the Democrats. So the question is, can Elise Stefanik win back those voters to the Republican side? And I think yes. I think it'd be very close, like very, very close, under 0.5%, since Joe Biden would have, Fulton County, the minority vote, but Elise Stefanik would definitely do very well with the rural voters. And since Joe Biden won Georgia, he won it by 0.2% in 2020. All Elise Stefanik needs is similar turnout from Fulton County, home of Atlanta, and she just needs the rural vote and some gains in the suburbs, and that could give her a narrow win. I think it's entirely possible for Elise Stefanik. So there we have it. Elise Stefanik will be elected the next president in this scenario. And overall, I think she's a decent candidate. She seems to be able to balance a moderate policies with a pro-Trump attitude. And in the end, that is very important. The GOP needs to follow essentially this model of appealing to suburbs, but also to the Trump voters, the blue-collar voters. These voters did not turn out for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue in Georgia, and they lost. And, Georgia's trending to the left, definitely, but you have to combine that with the suburban votes. So the GOP needs to market what I think of as a moderate populism and moderate Trumpism. Essentially what Donald Trump, of course, stands for, but without the divisive rhetoric that's more appealing to suburban voters, to more white voters. And I believe Elise Stefanik can balance that out, and she can then lead her to win. In this scenario, of course, she can win with 292 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 246. So that's it for this scenario. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, maybe subscribe for more content, hit the notification bell for more if you want to be instantly notified whenever I release a new video. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Check out the description and join the Discord servers that I have linked in the description down below. I'm pretty active on them, so that'd be really cool if you joined. And that's it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.